Okay, this is part 12 of quotes by Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher. He says, "Talent works for money and fame. The motive which moves geniuses to productivity is, on the other hand, less easy to determine. It isn't for money, because geniuses seldom get any money. It isn't for fame, because fame is uncertain. They usually don't get it. They usually get hassled and harassed. It is rather an instinct of a unique sort of virtue, whereby the genius is impelled to express what he knows in enduring works, without being conscious of any additional motivation. It takes place, by and large, with the same sort of necessity as a tree brings forth fruit." Yeah, like Jesus Christus said, "You shall know them by their fruits." The genius has a gift of greater clarity of thought and knowledge that he wishes to give to the whole species. It is this that impels a genius to labor in solitude and to complete his work. By the way, Schopenhauer, this is a description of him from R.J. Hounsdale, a translator who wrote about the works of Schopenhauer. He said, "From the age of 45 until his death 27 years later, Schopenhauer lived alone in rooms. Every day with an identical routine. He woke at 7 a.m., had a bath but no breakfast, drank a cup of strong coffee before sitting down at his desk and writing till noon. At noon he ceased work for the day, and then he spent half an hour practicing the flute, on which he became quite a skilled performer. Then he went out for lunch. Then he returned home and read until 4, when he left for his daily walk. He had a poodle that he would take for walks. He walked for 2 hours, no matter what the weather. At 6 p.m. he visited the library and read the newspaper. In the evening he attended the theater or a concert, and then had dinner at a hotel or restaurant. He was willing to deviate from his routine to receive visitors." But yeah, he was a very regimented guy. He had an inheritance from his wealthy father, so he didn't have to work. And he read every day in multiple different languages. He was a genius, but he was a crazy genius. Most geniuses are a little crazy. Okay, continuing with Schopenhauer. He kind of reminded me of Herbert Spencer in the sense that he spent more time thinking and writing than studying. Some of the major influences on Schopenhauer were Greek philosophy, especially Plato, but he also had read all kinds of things. He read Kant, he read, of course, Goethe, Hegel, Upanishads. Here he says, "Every human face is a hieroglyph that can be deciphered, so that everyone is worth looking at, even if everyone is not worth talking to. It is obvious that an animal possesses intellect only for the purpose of discovering and capturing its food. The degree of intellect it possesses is determined by that purpose. It is no different in the case of man, except that here the greater difficulty of preserving and maintaining him and the endless augmentability of his needs has made necessary a much greater degree of intellect. Exceeded through an abnormality, except for abnormalities, does there appear a superfluity of intellect exempt from service. When superfluity becomes considerable, it is called genius." So he says, while the intellectual horizon of a normal man is wider than that of an animal, whose whole existence is, as it were, one complete continual present with no consciousness of past or future, it is not immeasurably wider, as is generally supposed. So what I'm trying to say is, Schopenhauer became an atheist. And when somebody's an atheist, I can tell you, I got a lot of experience dealing with atheists. I got a lot of experience dealing with people in the environmentalism movement. I consider being a wildlife biologist, and I can tell you, this is how they view people. It's not ambiguous. They view people who are not scholars, especially in biology, they view most of them as simply animals that talk. They really do not have a Christian view of the world. I'm telling you, I know these people. I was going to potentially be a wildlife biologist, and this is how they spoke of people, as basically talking animals, and there's too many of them. Okay, and they always want control of the numbers of the population. I'm telling you, that's how they all think. And that's where you end up once you go down the path of atheism, because then you say that human life is not intrinsically valuable. And then they judge people by how they perceive their intelligence. And to me, it's obvious that everybody should know this, but for some reason, this is like a surprise. No, this is like saying 2 + 2 if you understand history and politics and all this stuff. Okay, Schopenhauer on religion. Religion is the metaphysics of the masses. By all means, let them keep it. Let it therefore command external respect, for to discredit it is to take it away. Just as they have popular poetry and popular wisdom of proverbs, so they must have popular metaphysics too. For mankind absolutely needs an interpretation of life, and this again must be suited to popular comprehension. Founders of religion and philosophies, they come into the world to rouse mankind from his stupor and to point to the lofty meaning of existence. Philosophers are for the few, the gifted. The founders of religion are for the many, for humanity at large. The function of religions is to preserve the metaphysics of the people. The central word of the Old Testament is law. The central word of the New Testament is love. And what I would get at with that is the way Schopenhauer saw things, the way Nietzsche saw things was that you have the herd of average people. And they're really just a bunch of talking monkeys, okay? And they have simplistic worldviews, simplistic values, and that just maintains the stability for society. But the only people who really matter as far as guys like Nietzsche and Schopenhauer are concerned are the geniuses trying to develop new thoughts, new science, new technology, new scholarship, new something, new creative art or poetry or literature or something. They felt everyone else is just a herd animal, talking monkeys. And I can tell you, once you go into Darwinistic atheism, this is the way all the higher-ups think that I've seen. Okay, it's not said publicly, so the regular public's not even aware of it, but this is how they think. I know them. I personally have had conversations with a lot of high-up people, so to speak, and this is how they think. Okay, Schopenhauer continues, to the normal intellect, nature appears simply as a matter of course. What such normal heads can achieve in philosophy, even if they crowd together in the thousands, is consequently easy to imagine. How very paltry and limited the normal human intellect is. They live their lives away in a dream, not very different from animals. Again, this always comes up. And remember, this is a guy writing around 1800, a little after 1800. This way of thinking amongst the elites has been around for a long, long time. This goes back, look at the ancient Roman Empire. It was like this. Come on. Okay, Schopenhauer continues, most men, to be sure, are incapable of any other employment of their intellect, because to them it is merely a tool in service of their will. It is entirely consumed by this service without any remainder. It is this that makes them so arid, so brutishly earnest, and incapable of objective conversation, just as the shortness of bonds joining intellect to will is visible in their face. The impression of narrow-mindedness which often emerges from it in such depressing fashion is in fact only the outward sign of the narrow limitation of their total stock of knowledge to the affairs of their own will. One can see that here there is just as much intellect as is given the will that it requires for its ends, and no more. Hence the vulgarity of their aspect, and hence also the fact that their intellect subsides into inactivity the moment their will is ceased to drive it. They take an objective interest in nothing whatever. I know a lot of people like that. They're not interested in anything unless it immediately benefits them. For the rest are from their first breath to their last tradesmen, life's born drudges. To be sociable with them is to be degraded. On the other hand, conversation between two people who are capable of some sort of purely objective employment of their intellect is a free play of intellectual energy. Though they might just be jesting, such a conversation is in fact like two or more people dancing together. And I know some people like this. Unless what you're talking about directly appeals to them, are they going to get more money? Are they going to get a better dinner? Are they going to get laid? They don't care. They don't want to hear it. Okay? Versus an intelligent person, they'll say, oh, this is how this really works. Oh, that's interesting. How does it work? Okay, anyways, Schopenhauer continues. The ethics of the ancient Greeks, with the exception of Plato, make it possible to lead a happy life. That's pretty much a consensus statement, the neoclassicism era, all through the 1700s. The ancient Greeks were where it's at. That's what everybody wanted to be like. They viewed the ancient Greeks as superior to them. Schopenhauer said it as, why is it that the ancient Greeks were so superior to us in intellect? Goethe, the ancient Greeks were, a great example of what mankind could be. I would say the ancient Greeks were great in numerous ways, but they also were lacking Christianity, and that dragged them down. The ancient Greeks did a lot of bad stuff, too. They did a lot of wonderful, magnificent, intelligent stuff, but they also did a lot of disgusting, evil, vulgar things. They had slaves. They brutalized the people of Milos, for example. Okay. All right, let us continue with Schopenhauer. Religion is truth expressed in allegory and myth, and thus made accessible and digestible to mankind at large. For mankind at large could never endure it, pure and unalloyed. Philosophy, on the other hand, should be like the Eleusinian mysteries, reserved for the few and the select. So the Eleusinian mysteries was sort of like some of the elites in Athens pursued this extra thing, philosophic religion. Schopenhauer, my doctrine could be called true Christian philosophy, however paradoxical this may seem to those who refuse to penetrate to the heart of the matter but prefer its superficialities. Music is the true universal language of mankind. Okay, Schopenhauer continues, hatred comes from the heart, contempt comes from the head. Contempt is not incompatible with kindly treatment, and for the sake of one's own peace and safety, this should be given. For if this contempt ever shows itself, it will be met with the most truculent hatred. If you want to know how you really feel about someone, take note of the impression an unexpected letter from him makes on you when you first see it. In the Greek system of gods, Uranus is space, Cronus is time, Zeus is matter, and Prometheus is bound to his sphere of influence, and the vulture gnaws his liver. The man who seeks to do what is good and genuine must avoid what is bad, and be ready to defy the opinions of the mob, nay, even to despise the mob and its misleaders. Posthumous fame is often bought at the expense of contemporary praise and vice versa. Okay, so that's it on Schopenhauer for this part 12. Hope you found that helpful.